11th at 3:03 p.m. We'll officially call this board meeting or this board work session to order. I don't have a copy of my agenda, but I'm assuming we have a roll call to start. So a roll call, that was my bad. I was to start. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. I was so distracted by you all coming in and the amazingness that we're about to experience. I'm so glad that you're here. So we'll do a quick roll call for work sessions. We go all the way around the table, so we know who all is here. And then we'll go. So we'll start maybe right here.
Dave Larson, EM District 5 School Board.
Dr. Constance is the superintendent.
Carly Hoover, you say them pronouns. I'm the director of District 1.
Kate Cromer, District 2.
Aiden Halleck, they, junior student representative to the board.
Amy Fleming, she CFO.
Amber Mon, she, her, Director of Student Services.
Jessica Proctor, Director of Vocational Education College of Games.
Probably assistant principal.
Tanya Parker, Howard.
Scott Whitback, him, Chief of Academics and Schools.
Jared Kushner, EM Superintendent.
Naomi Burrow, she, her, Director of Communications, Equity,
Aaron Dragana for being pronoun and HR director.
Jared Orca, assistant principal.
Thank you so much. And do y'all want to introduce yourselves? We got the time. Here's what we'll do. We'll start over here and you can say pass. Does that work? Okay, cool.
Daphne, she, her, and I'm a senior at Foster High School. Passes my question.
Yeah, she, her, yeah. And I'm a freshman.
I'm Arden, I'm also a freshman. My name is Andrea Ramirez, and I'm a sophomore. My name is Ola, and I'm a freshman at Foster. My name is Kaylee, I go March, and I'm a senior at Foster High School.
Anybody Kenny fan? Go by Kingdom and junior class 426.
My name is Amanda. My name is My name is Ashley, and I'm a sophomore for Boston.
My name is Henry and I'm a senior.
Oh, Mattia Singh, teacher, and coach of the robotics team.
Yeah.
Jacob, I'm the only other member that actually made it in here.
We'll introduce the rest.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'm Aaron Boldup, Ethan, I'm the choir teacher at Showalter and Foster.
Thank you all so much for doing that. It's really a pleasure to have you all here. I don't even know what's in store, but I'm so for it. So first we have to just do our official thing. So if I can get a motion to approve today's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, with that, I'll pass it over to the Foster High School team to get us going.
Awesome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Latanya Parker, as I mentioned, proud principal of Foster High School. I'm here with my entire admin team, which I'm so excited about. Ms. Nazra Banaki and Mr. J.R. Lorca. And today, as you can see, we brought our wonderful choir here to perform for you. This is something that I wanted to do last year, and now that we're here mid-year, I just think it's fitting, as well as moving on to our district anti-racist goals. For Foster, our two goals are to enforce anti-bias discipline, as well as student voice and engagement. And what better way than to highlight our Foster scholars for you all today. And so they have two songs that they have prepared to sing for us. So, please welcome
Let's get like, so you can see, let's do like sopranos, altos, other bass.
Yes.
We have like, shift this way. And like shift this way. We like all shift this way, shift this way. We don't need this. You can give me two. Like, yeah, it's used to. Okay, cool, and then we shift this so you can see. Yes. Okay. Sorry, all right, so, like Ms. Parker said, we have a couple songs prepared for today. We have a concert next week. Our mid-year concert is gonna be our Pops concert, so all the songs that we do will be some sort of style of pop music. So that could be like an older song, that was popular back when like folk music was popular. That could be something more from today. At that concert, some students will be doing solos or duets. We've been working on that in class, and then we have a few group songs. So we're gonna do 2 of the group songs today. If you know them and want to sing along, go for it. Bass, bass, and then altos. 3, 4, 1. I'll be away. When you're down, I will carry you like a wind. I will let when you're down and down. When you're in the stream. I'll be your wind, your child on water.
When you're down, I will carry you like a friend. My troubled water, I will let sail on silver sail on sing how they shine. I'll be your friend, your troubled water. When you're down, I will carry you like a wind. Your troubled water. I
So that was Bridge Over Troubled Water. Originally Simon and Garfunkel and then a million other artists. Next up we have In My Life by the Beatles. And we're gonna have some students that are coming in on this one, so I'm just gonna stand over here and hang.
all my life, some have changed, some forever, for the better, some have gone, and some remain. All these faces have their moments, when lovers and friends, I still can recall, some are dead, some are living. In my life, I love them all. But I don't know these things. Yes, with you and these memories will set me as something new. Though I know never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll never stop and think about them. If I love you more. I know that it's a passion for people and things that went before. I know to stop and think about that. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
More of that, I say.
We start every.
Sorry, Freeman, yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah, you want?
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe you could let them.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Yeah.
You're very.
Really lovely.
Oh, we did. Yeah, George.
Yeah, I don't
Uh-huh.
So we have, our robotics team coming in, and you all may be wondering like, what is all of this? You know, when I'm in classrooms and I talk to our scholars all the time, they want to know, like, what are the conversations that are happening outside of the building? And we've been trying to, encourage them to get out into the community and present. So we do have one more short presentation before, we go into our PowerPoints, but, I think seeing our scholars in person is much better than, no.
Then I'll PowerPoint.
But I just soften this up for the presentation.
You don't need to soften up.
You wanna? I think we're gonna get it down. Okay, decide we can get this side.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, don't use the box. Are you gonna be?
Wait, someone get Yeah.
All right, and then can I get it, so, Gavin said that. I can take over Gavin's first role, let you guys get set up here. But then Jacob and feel like you guys can still talk a little bit about those things, and I want to have, when we do this part, kind of an impact, I love it if everybody can say one reason. So, hi, everybody, I'm Matthias Shaman, be my full screen in us. I think you can just do it. You can go to view and then view. Slideshow. So like I said, I'm the coach of the robotics team, and this year it's also credit bearing as well. So students are getting some credit for doing this work. And we now have more than 22 students on the robotics team, up from 14 last year. Students come right now, we're getting ready for competition. I'll say a little bit about that near the end this weekend. So we're meeting 3 times a week from 2:30 at school ends till 7 o'clock at night. We've been doing that schedule since beginning of January. So it's a ton of work, but I think they'll be able to speak to this. I think it's pretty fun as well. The team is very it is not a class where everybody is doing the same assignment, the same worksheet. Everybody is doing different things. We have programmers, people wiring, doing electrical, we have people designing and doing computer aided design, we have a lot of folks on mechanical building. So it's an opportunity for kids to learn a lot of different things and kind of find their niche as well. And I think I might skip. Oh, okay. I'll talk a little bit about this part. No, I guess I said students will do it. What do you guys up for it? We didn't spend a lot of time preparing for this. We've been spending time preparing for the competition.
Authentic voice.
So, want to talk a little bit about
Be ready.
hopefully what we're hoping for this program, how it could impact the school. Your thoughts?
So this team as a whole has impacted Foster in many ways. Primarily, there were a lot of students that have joined us that before they joined robotics, as well as stuff like your manufacturing classes, they had not really done much when it came to tools, design of really any sort. Anything coding, like, good example, Style, our lead coder, who knew a small amount before joining the team, but then once I harassed him into joining, he has gained a lot more skills to the point where I'd say you're pretty experienced overall. As well as at competitions, it gives Foster like sort of a very professional looking image, including like last season we got the image award, was it right? From Imaging Quality Awards. So the quality of the robot and the image of it was so high that they thought we deserved an award. And it's things like that that really help Foster as a whole, because not only are we getting people who may not have had this in the comfort zones beforehand to jump into it and build, I mean, this could be extremely useful for their careers in the future. We are, as mentioned, also able to give Foster a professional image in the STEM space and related to first robotics competition as a whole. So.
Yeah, I think it was great. Yeah. What are we trying to do this year, Kyle?
So right now our goals for specifically for the robotics team and the overall team itself is right now we're all individually improving our own skills in the STEM related fields. For programming, I can say we're math, coding, so I can eventually become a software engineer in the future, or any related field or related to an engineer, and following these guys too, who is developing their skills, taking an interest in STEM or anything related to that sort, and we're trying to improve our skills. Another goal for this year, I would say that is to improve our, like, how do I say this? Communication, teamwork as a whole team, for this year and upcoming years for robotics. I think this team has definitely improved all of our communication and teamwork skills as one of our goals, because I would say that before this, I would say I would not be able to communicate as effectively as I would be able to now joining this team, and other team people can probably speak about that. But I think one of our like probably most important goals of the team is just like probably the teamwork aspect as a goal, just because we're elevating each other to higher potentials and something that we've not been able to do before, encouraging and be able to communicate through not only our team, but other FRC robotics teams within our competition. And that's been a great goal for, I think, all of us. And unless Mr. Shea wants to add anything else?
I think you said all the most important stuff. I think on a less important level, we're also hoping to make it district champion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've gotten close for the last couple of years. FRC is extremely competitive. Most teams have $100,000 plus budgets yearly. Most teams, a lot of teams are bigger than us and come from areas where more family members might be engineers that could mentor, might have other resources. So I think that there's a certain, I almost want to say audacity in creating an FRC team and and a non-magnet public school, local district like this. And really trying to go out and do it too. So,
Congratulations.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we'll talk in a couple weeks. Yeah.
It's still, I just hear so much pride. I'm just gonna speak from my heart. I hear so much pride and love for what you guys are doing, your commitment level, what you wanna do in connection to this in the future. So you've already accomplished so much, like so much, and that you actually are really working towards a goal to make state competition, and it just already appears to me you're doing everything you can, you're just doing whatever it takes to do that. So I just see you guys already have won in my eyes. So, yeah.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say is that it's not just me leading these kids, so I'm the only adult representing us right now, but Mr. Bertaff, our other physics and chemistry teacher, is assistant coach, and we also have, depending on the day, 5 to 7 mentors who come in from the community. So we have people who are building spacecraft, designing spacecraft, programming spacecraft, and designing custom robotics. Like we have some very, very high level people in their fields who are coming in, again, dozens of hours per month, over a dozen hours a week to support our students.
So the other thing I was, so I've watched this Mr. Chairman and his team for several years now, and the other thing that fits in really, really well with portrait of graduate work that we're doing, I mean, because all the tools that they were just talking about, that's exactly what we want for everybody at Boston High School, so, you know, they're really good fit.
Appreciate that. I just wanted to show this video real quick, if you would just click somewhere on that black box. This is just kind of showing what like, oh, it's not letting you?
Yeah.
Never mind. Can you go to the next one? I think you'll have access. So this was us competing last year. We haven't competed yet this year. So competitions, you can hit play. So competitions are 3 teams versus 3 teams. It's a little bit unusual. They're only 2.5 minutes long. You get about a dozen per event. The first 15 seconds are fully autonomous, so the entirely computer controlled. There's nobody touching the controls for this part. This is a robot last year over there. And then after that, we have students on the stick. So it's a little bit, we don't have time for me to fully explain what the games are, but I can say this year they were using these orange foam circles that we were trying to shoot up here, and usually there's an end game where you have to climb on something. And we don't know what the game was. We don't know what the game is until January 6th. So at that point, they tell you the game, the 120-page game manual that our students have to figure out. And you have to design, brainstorm, design, build, program, and train the drivers in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
The other thing that's really unique about this is the alliances. So you mentioned there's 3 teams on 3 teams. So these guys have to go out and figure out, okay, who's on my alliance in this competition and how can we work together? So that teamwork is not trivial.
And it changes every match.
Yeah,
So,
right.
So you could be going against somebody one match and then join them in your next alliance. And your color also changes between red and blue. This is all like data to figure out who you want to compete with in
The tournament.
tournament at the end of the.
A large part of First Robotics competition as a whole is their concept called courageous professionalism, where essentially you're expected to treat every single team exactly the same. You don't put down other people, you don't bring up other people. Everyone is on the same exact level, no matter how good the robot is, no matter how big their team is, how small their team is. Everyone is competing fundamentally on the exact same level, no matter what their skill level is, which really helps. I've noticed a lot of students when it comes to just treating others with respect, because it's kind of important to say the least.
Because your competitor one time, maybe your,
Yeah.
friendly next time.
Yeah, there's an incredible culture in First where if something breaks on your robot, even if you're a robot, a team that you may be competing against next will come and help you fix your robot. before that game. I don't really know of any other competition.
Or you don't help them, which
We
I
had-
know local did.
We had that happen last year, our bumpers broke and we're the team that just came and helped us fix it. And we fixed it in less than 30 minutes. This time that we had to do, that's time that we had to get to our next match.
Alright.
Do you want to move the robot a little bit? So this year's competition involves scoring these, it's called Reefscape, and it involves scoring these PVC tubes. It's gonna be difficult to explain, to be honest, but you can see the thing moving on that pedestal.
Enabling.
Close enough to the center, you can go all the way up.
Very.
They're trying not to damage the shrimp. Thing is really fast. You wanna try to see it? You wanna drop a coral at some height? There's one there. So imagine there's this like reef and that has been split.
There's a bunch of.
Do you wanna try to grab an algae?
Oh, we got that.
We can attempt. And then you're supposed to be able to grab these, they're called algae, it's a mini exercise ball.
Want to fit it on hand?
Alright, anyway, invitation to join all, I'm always late on this kind of stuff, but we can send it out, soon, this weekend and next weekend, full Saturday and Sunday. This weekend at Bonnie Lake, next weekend at Auburn.
Nice. Alright.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Next question real quick.
Yeah.
You said that you get to hold the game and you have 10 weeks to figure out the game and how you is the robot's already built though, right?
No.
You're not even allowed to.
Everything in that 10-week period.
You're not allowed to know. These robots are like highly customized for
For
competitors with that.
activity. Huh. That's amazing.
They do offer kit bots every year, but they're completely optionary. They're only for teams who are just starting out, really, who need the kit in order to even compete. Which we don't need, so
Yeah.
this is completely custom, completely designed by us and manufactured by us robot.
Like amazing.
Yeah.
Who's machine that?
I believe that is.
You might have walked out. Yeah, we did.
Nice job, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Would
you.
be a good t-shirt.
Well, yeah, actually.
Like a
Later,
can.
there's been a question.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do it.
Oh, good.
There, we're actually, see if there were others who would, it was hitting stage next to musical.
Right. I know, collaborate
Right.
across.
So we did sort of, So I also just wanted to share, Mr. Baldock is leading our, after-school drama club. I know that was, something that we wanted to see continue, so Mr. Baldock, our choir teacher, is also leading, that club after school. And I just, when I look at this photo of us and standing outside the Foster Rock, this is what makes Foster, a part of what makes Foster joyful for me and I'm sure for the rest of the team. So thank you all for participating in that. As I shared earlier, our scholar voice and engagement is just critical because without that, it's really hard to learn when you're not engaged. And so I just am so thankful that they all came and so that you can hear firsthand from them and their experiences that they are having at Foster. So our highlights, you've seen them in the district news. We have, 3 championship, participants this year. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Please. We have our, wrestling team. We have 5 wrestlers go to state. Our foster cheer team won state this year, as well as our boys basketball. They are the King County champs and the, state championship participants. As well as you just heard from Mr. Shaman, our robotics team is also hopefully heading to state. So we want to highlight our academics as well as our excellence in sports and our extracurricular activities.
The basketball team, went to the state, which is the top 16 out of, I think, 63 teams in the 2A, and they lost their games, but it turns out they lost to the team that finished second and third in the finals.
Yeah.
So they got a really tough bracket.
Yeah, but we're just proud.
Yeah.
We're proud of all of them. We're proud of all of them. Like this is the energy around the school and just with families in the community is just like electric. One of our other highlights that I wanted to share with the board today is something that we piloted as a school in collaboration with our building leadership team and our social studies team, actually. We found that cell phones, of course, across the nation are a huge concern with scholars, you know, being involved in different incidents and just lack of engagement because phones, you know, are addicting. So we implemented a no cell bell to bell within Foster School. Our social studies team piloted cell phone pouches within classrooms in September. And as of November and up to, I think most recently here, all of our classrooms have adopted the no cell phone policies. And just hearing feedback from scholars, they are sharing that they feel more engaged and they feel like they can focus more with the cell phone. So we have pouches all throughout the school. Many teachers ordered their own on Amazon. I think they're about $12. And then we've had some who donated pouches. So every classroom does have a pouch. So I just wanted to share that and then also show you our common signage that's throughout the school that reminds scholars of the cell phone policy.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So I know this is something that kind of has lightly come up and we've talked a little bit about this. Is this something, I mean, that you feel like the board should and could adopt a policy around so that it becomes a district-wide initiative and backed by the support of the administration?
Yes, that's our hope.
Yeah.
That the board will join us in supporting with that. And as we even think about like the portrait of a graduate, this is something that as a district, I feel if the board is backing it, more families and scholars, you know, would then be encouraged not to use their phones. And so we have that when we're communicating the why behind it.
So I'm also curious, I think some districts, so it sounds like what you've done is this bell to bell, so no, not during the class, but we can have it during passing and lunch and so forth. I know, see, there's other schools that have like, you know, immediately when you walk in the door, it's out and you don't get it until you go home. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on, you know, which one of those would be better. I've heard districts doing both of those.
You know, I know their district doing both. You know, with the no cell bell to bell, it's high school. I think times have changed. You know, having your phone at lunch and breaks is fine, but when you're entering the classroom, you're expected to focus on your academics. I think that would be where I would start at this point.
We also may have to think about elementary or middle school versus high school. There may be, as we think about it at the board level, we may want to think about, sounds like it's working for high school, that way they're doing it, but the others may think about something different.
And I'm curious too, you know, just even anecdotally, like the, you know, potential impact decreases in things like cyberbullying or the use of social media that can then have all these ripple effects, even like videoing other students. So that's like my only thought when it comes to like the passing periods and lunchtime. But that's a conversation for, another time. Maybe we can, we will add that to our list of things to review in the coming months.
And just quick, as it is, you have it within reach if there is an emergency, and I think that's probably the key thing between families and students, right, is
Yes,
it's within reach, but you're focusing on funds.
yes, the pouches are displayed right behind the teacher, so scholars can look at the board and see that their phone is safe. Behind.
It has like
the teacher
evaporate.
And it's facing the opposite direction, so.
So you can't see the text messages. But, and a lot of the teachers that are now just trying it out and, we modeling with classrooms that where it is a success. And then a lot of that is with coaching them to put it within proximity of the teacher. I think there's some safety for kids to see their phone is behind a desk or somewhere where it's visible, but it would be very visible if someone were to go over there and take it. All the numbers are assigned to a particular student per period, so they know who's exactly. Some teachers use it for attendance purposes also.
Yeah.
But again, it's, we're not all the way to 100% yet, but I think first we're gonna definitely get there. And so,
One quick question, I'm a watch wearer, I can see my text on my watches there, especially like you too. Have you gone that far? I think this is a great plateau we're at right now, so.
We haven't gone as far as with the watches, and teachers have reported that it hasn't been
Good.
a concern. So, and I think what's happening is they're turning their phones off and putting it in the pouch. So I don't know if I think that disconnects the watch. I don't know.
If you got the phone thing going, but you don't
Yeah.
search on it,
Yep.
like on
Well, that's
text.
that,
or anything.
Yeah. So most have reported that it's working well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. How far along is the rollout on the cell phone pouches? Because I know I've only have one of my 6 classes currently has them. So do we know how far along that is?
One of your 6, they all should have them. So you'll have to, share with me who that is. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 of my classes do not have a cell phone.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering how the admin team is dealing with the rollout of the policy when it comes to individual teachers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question, Aiden. And so we'll have to check in with those teachers, but we connect with them when we meet with them for our coaching cycles.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'm assuming the feedback that you got from the scholars is all generally pretty positive?
Yeah, from the staff.
No, scholars, students.
Yes, it's been positive. Of course, there's some, of course, there's some who they want their phones.
Yeah.
But when they've been asked and are really being honest about their engagement and ability to focus, it's been positive.
Yeah, that's why I think at other schools, there's a little transition period
Yes.
where people get used to it, but then in the end, they say, yeah, this is really good.
Yes. All right, and so our goals for the school year are 9th grade on track, ELA and math achievement, as well as discipline, disproportionality, attendance and participation in extracurricular activities, as well as equity in advanced classes. We're aiming to get more scholars of color and diversify our advanced classes. So our 9th grade on track data, which is one of our goals. What you see here on the screen is our 23-24 semester 1 freshman on track data versus our semester 1 of 24-25. And as you can see that we've had positive trend with our 9th grade on track, which is indicating that, more of our scholars are progressing towards graduation. We attribute that to a lot of the support that we have in the building, in particular, our re-engagement specialist who focuses on our scholar tour not passing, as well as our seniors, and then our freshmen who are maybe disengaged or have chronic absences and so forth. Our team does do a weekly check-in connect with scholars who are in those categories. However, we found that the gaps still persist with our Hispanic Latino population. And so with that, I'm working with Dr. Pedrosa to connect with and have discussions around community partners that we can potentially bring into the building to help just create what we believe needs to be like that further sense of belonging and identity with that group.
So when I asked the question about the breakdown, if I interpret this graph that you sent along there's a significant increase in actually disproportionalities among Black students. Did I read this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
And so, I mean, it's fairly, and it should be a reduction actually in the Latino students based on this year. So I'm wondering, is it something about this particular class, or is there something, I mean, you have here the emphasis on Hispanic Latino, but when I look at the data for this year, it looks like,
Yeah.
Black students need to be the.
And I think for that specifically for Black, and in terms of the data, I want to just aggregate what Black students are, and it's counting all our Portuguese speaking Angolan students also.
Okay,
So
okay,
if you look at it, and I don't have the actual numbers, but a majority or half of it would probably be some Angolan students, and Congolese, and so, I forget the breakdown. But in terms of our Black students or African American students here, it would be 12.
okay, so something about the asylum seekers that flooded in
Yeah,
last year,
yeah.
okay.
And so, and then, but again, I think, we'll kind of adjust in terms of, no matter what the breakdown is, I think that in terms of the interventions.
The other thing I was curious about on track is what courses are students failing? I mean, is it, in the past, it's tended to be the STEM courses. I wonder if that's still true. Is there any particular course that's causing?
Yeah, so right now, we have some of our scholars who are failing, in health is, a big, we see a large disproportionality in our health classes as well as, some of our, science.
Okay, so science is kind of an ongoing, something that needs to pay attention to, okay.
Yes.
Can I ask a question about mathematics, or are you gonna get to that later?
Yeah.
We can wait,
We're gonna get to math. Thank you. So one of our goals is to increase proficiency in ELA and math within 10% or more in the coming years. So when we look at our Algebra 1 scholars, we had 73% that passed first semester. Overall, 79% of scholars pass Algebra 1 or STEM. STEM does count towards a Algebra 1 credit. Challenges in math that we have found and we'll continue to work with our teams on are we had a math transition mid-October for our Algebra 1 classes, as well as 41 out of 50 scholars who failed Algebra 1 first semester missed 20 or more days of classes, and we'll show you a breakdown of the demographics of that particular group on the next slide. There were some issues in our scheduling with singleton classes as well. So working with our math team, the early release days are definitely helping to support scholars in cross-departmental planning as well as just calibration of math lessons and supports. Oh.
I think you're too far ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think we got one, yeah.
Yeah.
Here, so it'll be here.
Next one.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Oh,
No, go
Go
up.
back up.
No, go up, yeah, yep.
there we go.
Yeah, go to, yeah.
A little bit more? You can go, okay.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Okay.
And so with that, just to end the slide, we have data teams and really just working with our staff overall, just towards a shift in culture of assessment so that we can really obtain accurate data and where our scholars are at.
So it sounds like in terms of this, missing 20 days, so that's obviously going to be a big issue in terms of academic achievement. It sounds like that graph was mostly Latino students on that particular one. So yeah, that's where, you talk about partnerships and getting the message to the families that it's really important to come to school. Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
So in terms of discipline and disproportionality around it, that there was one of the positives, an increase or decrease in incidents, along with inappropriate behavior, totaling 113 incidents from involving 64 scholars, and for this year, for 24-25, we have 85 incidents involving 65. I will note that, of the 85 incidents, could be accounted for by, a couple of students, the difference in that. So, there's 64 total, and then, some of that are also attributed to, anything in Skyward is considered, if it's, also attendance, would be considered, a discipline issue. So,
Wait, say that again in a different way. Or just say it again.
in Skyward, a discipline can count if it's either a major or minor behavior. Attendance can also be counted as that.
So if they
Unexcused.
miss school for an unexcused absence,
10,
it's deemed
what's
as a
the
disciplinary action.
Yeah.
So we're working to, yeah.
So minutes.
So we're working to have that removed.
Yeah.
Because that adds to the number of incidents, yes. And that's been there.
Yeah,
For some
just,
time.
I'm always learning new things about how terrible the systems that we use are. Okay, thank you, so
But
if I see flabbergasted, it's because it was.
it also gets confusing too, when we talk about discipline, so at the state level, when you go to the OSBI site, they're talking about out of school suspension. And what we're talking about in time is a whole lot more than just out of school suspension, so that's another, when you're trying to follow what's going on.
And I will, in terms of, one of our focuses this year is the, restorative practices. And really, again, a lot of similar to other goals is really students owning, their actions, but also just in being able to restore that, relationships. And, again, our whole staff, our counseling team, our security team, our engagement officer, admin, it's finding the relationship with students to be able to support those restorative conversations. Ms. LaJoy in our front office has been supporting a lot of that also, and really starting off with the peer-to-peer restorative conversations. And again, our protocol is always peer-to-peer. There's two students, teacher to student, family conversations, looping families in. This accounts for in terms of discipline, but also academic purposes. And then so admin supporting wherever we can. And again, some of the challenges still, disproportionate in Black and Hispanic students, overrepresented in that. But again, I think in working with those relationships and partnering, with the other teams in the building and really seeking out those, identifying those students that can account for multiple incidents and really building that and, getting ahead of certain incidents prior to occurring is a key. And so, and I feel like we have a system in terms of, or we're getting to a system where we are able to identify those students and really seeking out adults that they can connect with. And that's one of our goals is every student has one adult that they can connect with in a building. And that can be anybody in the building, any adult, trusted.
And the other question I always have on these, is how much of these incidents are, this broad category of disrespect or bad behavior or, is that shrinking down a little bit?
It's shrinking down because that's where the restorative conversations
Yeah,
come in, where we
okay.
really can drill down on, is it really a behavior or is it
Yeah.
a perceived
Right.
situation?
Yeah.
Where you feel like you were disrespected.
Mhm.
So yes, it is.
Okay, so a good chunk of these is still that, and obviously it's been reduced, but more to do. Okay.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot more minors, I think, than major
Yeah,
incidents.
yeah.
And so so now I don't have the breakdown, but I'm going off of, I don't know our data, but I would say I think we have more minors.
Minors tend to have a lot to do with this bias, cultural misunderstanding, lack of support, all those things, Okay,
I want to push ahead to that, particularly when we have like identity-based conflict or really identity-based microaggressions, right? That, might result in, a staff member or student feeling disrespected by, a Black student, right, for instance. Or gender non-conforming person. And then I don't feel comfortable being able to address that peer-to-peer. What supports are being offered, whether that be from an administrator or another peer or that trusted adult teacher? Essentially, we're not putting young people in positions where they're having to be put in probably potentially harmful and really uncomfortable situations, simply to meet that peer-to-peer touch point, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, we never lead with that.
Yeah.
It's always an administrator who connects
Okay.
first.
Okay.
And scholars always have a choice to opt out when it comes to peer mediation
Okay.
or restorative practices. That's one of the, key, one of the requirements is scholars get to have a choice.
Great.
Yeah, because you don't want to perpetuate.
And the same conversation or communication with families, there's some families like, I demand or, to talk to this, well, that conversation, you always allow us to stop that, and, yeah, I get the sentiment, but, and so. Next slide.
All right, so the slide that you see here is our ELA freshman first semester. As far as our ELA honors class versus that first semester last year. So keep in mind, this is our first year at Foster of our ninth grade honors. And they are doing well. And some of the interventions that our teachers are using are, of course, our re-engagement conferences, our growth-based goal setting, shorter units, and then opportunities for reassessments with a focus lens. This next graph is our college in the high school, and this is 2024 data. So you can see the representation break down to the right of our scholars who are currently participating in the college and the high school programs.
So my question about college and high school, is there a kind of a shift going on? I see the number of students participating in AP is kind of going down. Is there a shift from AP to college and the high school?
That's our goal. More of our scholars can earn college credit if they pass the college and the high school courses.
Yeah.
And what I will share is that we had a couple of our AP courses that were offered. However, we had less scholars select those courses.
Right.
So we are moving and working with our teachers to move towards more college and the high school accreditation so that they can teach the college and high school courses so that we can keep more of our scholars at Foster and they earn credit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. When I ask students, consistently why they do like Running Start, it's because they want more rigorous courses and college credit. And I think it sounds like at college and high school, you're more likely to get credit depending on what school you go to than if you do AP. First of all, you have to take the test, you have to get a 3, and then maybe the school assesses it, maybe it doesn't. Whereas college and high school, I think is, more likely you're going to get credit.
That's correct.
Yeah, and the rigor is still going to be there because
Yes,
you're taking a college course, so.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that sounds like a good, and it sounds like, there was some, the AP courses maybe have a slightly higher variety, but the other part of this is because of the budget cuts, we can't support those small classes anymore, unfortunately, which is another issue that when we advocate for more money, that's, why we need more money, because to have more options, but, we still have, students have options, they can take courses at Highline, they can take courses, at the skill center and different things, so, the move to college and high school makes a lot of sense to me.
Is that a teacher specific accreditation or a course?
Well, we need to have it's actually both, but we need to have more teachers.
Okay.
Receive the accreditation.
And is that something that we support them in getting that accreditation in any way? No,
It's more advice.
Okay, sorry.
If they want it and, we've worked in alignment like around course
Selection.
So anything they need to facilitate professional development, wise or training, we'll take care of that.
Great.
But it also requires the teacher to.
Totally, yeah, for
So
sure, for sure.
It's a yes, Aaron.
Okay.
Just one question about honors for all.
Sure.
So do the students get, does that get noted in their transcript that it's an honors for all course?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Yeah, it's in the course guide. It's an honors for all courses.
Perfect,
So it
thank
does.
you.
Yeah, I think that's just raising the rigor across the board, which is, I think, a really good thing.
So this is I just wanted to share our Running Start data with you all so that you can see the percentage of Running Start scholars. This graph that you see here are actually lower. I think this is about 101 scholars. And to date, we have a total of 144, which is a combination of full-time and part-time Running Start. So we have about 66 full-time scholars attending Running Start, 78 part-time, which means they are still taking one or more courses at our school.
It was interesting, so we heard at the portrait of the graduate meeting, a lot of students came in, Aiden and a bunch of others came in and were kind of expressed a little bit of, question is why, typically we have about 100 Running Start, now we're up to 144. It sounds like a chunk of that increase is more part-time, which maybe they're taking one course or something to try it out, which that doesn't hurt the district financially as much as a full-time when the whole thing goes over there. But I think there was a certain, and this will be an interesting thing to look at, there's a certain concern about getting the rigorous courses that they need. And some of that we talked about in the portrait of graduate, maybe a communications issue. I actually went back, one way to measure the effectiveness of this was to look at what happens to students when they leave. And in this state, we have a group education data research center that tracks students where they go when they leave high school, the first year and afterwards. And I went back and looked at the data for Foster has always been really good. I mean, particularly, there's two measures they use. Did you enroll in a college, and then did you stay there? Did you persist for a year or more? And particularly when you take into account the poverty level of schools, Foster is way, way above where it would be expected to be. So I think, some of the taking Running Start, that's a great option. I think there seemed to be a certain concern to the students that weren't getting rigorous enough work. And, I think that's not necessarily the case. So there may be some communication going on there. Also, I was thinking, I remember one of the students said, they took a course and it was too easy. So we listened to some roundtable students talk about what was important skills, and one of them was advocating for yourself. So if you're in a course where you don't feel challenged, I feel confident that if you went to the teacher at Foster High School and said, I need some more challenging work, that they would channel you in that direction. So that's a 21st century skill that needs to be instilled in all our students, is to advocate for themselves and go get, if they need something more challenging, go get it. And that's a really important skill when you get to college, I can tell you for sure. Because you can't just kind of sit there and be dissatisfied, you have to go get what you need. So anyway, it was a very interesting discussion that we had at the Portrait Graduate. We're gonna have some more discussions with other students, but anyway, it was a very good discussion, I think, that we had.
That's the breakdown of the demographics of the Running Start scholars. And I just put that in there so that you all can see who's actually attending courses or participating in Running Start. All right. So our high school and beyond plans, right now, currently for the 24-25 school year, we are at 90.6% on track. I thought it was important to share for you all the things that go into a high school and beyond plan and completion, the things that our seniors need to complete in order to be eligible and meet that grad requirement. So you can see that they have to have their financial aid in, They meet with counselors, which is new this year, upload a writing sample to their advisory, and activate their Parchment accounts so that they can access their transcript as well as complete a senior exit survey. You see our 9th grade, so 11th and 12th graders complete and work toward the high school and beyond plan, but it starts earlier on in the middle school. And so these are just some of the other things that they do. Student-led conferences fall in spring. We have our counselors meet with every scholar regarding their registration to ensure that their courses they're selecting align with their goals, as well as ensuring that we have scholars accessing those higher level and rigorous courses.
So, a comment on the FAFSA. So, FOSTA traditionally has one of the best percentages of student completing FAFSA, behind usually only Seattle, because they have the Seattle Promise. But one of the things I guess, you brought up here is the fact that there's some issue with like mixed status families being reluctant to fill it out for good reasons. And I was actually on a call with One America, one of our local immigrant rights communities. They've been working with us for a long time and brought this issue up for them. And so it's on their radar to go try and think about how to, it's a tough one to deal with. And I'm not sure how we're gonna deal with it, but anyway, I just wanted to let you know, they're thinking about that. And it actually had come up before in other districts, not surprisingly. So hopefully we'll come up with some ways to at least help that situation.
Thank you. So currently, right now, our completion rate is around 43%. The state completion average is 32%. That does not include the WASPA completion, so that may be a little bit higher. So we'll see where we end up at here.
And I will say, I looked that up, we're still number one in all of the South King County districts, behind only Seattle because of, they've been doing it for a long time, but we beat all the other districts around us, so.
Yeah.
Again, kudos to the counseling staff and all the folks that work on that issue, because it's really important to our students.
Yes, we have our counseling team as well as Gear Up. And our family liaison, so we're holding the FAFSA nights, and that's been a huge reason why we are able to get the completion rates that we have.
Okay, so next we have multilingual learner status at Foster High. At the end of February, we had 379 MLL enrollment. And I believe that number as we speak now is up at 387. So I'm kind of noticing, on average, three scholars enrolling at Foster per week. On average. 42 of our MLL scholars, this is a number so I get a notification from the Reader Access portal. And last year, at the end of October, it notified us that 42 scholars exited WIDA. Now, WIDA can be exited in two ways. So you either get a score of 4.7 in the WIDA assessment or level 2 in SBA assessment. And our current WIDA completion as of last month was at 80%, and that's the highest we've seen at Foster. And I think, one of the key contributing factors has been just communicating to families about the significance of WIDA and making sure that the communication reaches our scholars as well, because we have to bear in mind these are multilingual scholars. And so, sending them an email is not sufficient. Then we get like 20 emails a day, all in English, 30 emails. So we've posted, books around campus, We've had the teachers also notify them, speak to them about reader assessment. And also the hiring of a full-time Spanish speaking MLL co-teacher, that's been huge for us at Foster. And that was in January this year. And we strategically based on, based on the grades and based on where the MLL scholars need the greatest amount of support. We found out that it was in physics 1 and 2. So physics, is an area content where it's a struggle for our MLL scholars, English and also history. And one thing we also observed was, when it comes to accessing text comprehension, large chunks of text without differentiation and support, that's where our scholars have said that they struggle the most. And they've also mentioned that accessing 6 classes in English, with translation made available is a huge cognitive lift. We are aware of MLL scholar voices. And, when it comes to, and we take it into regard when it comes to planning. One of the things we've worked hard at Foster, especially this year, is just communicating with our Spanish-speaking families regarding attendance, regarding grades, and or disciplinary incidents. We spend a lot of time, especially the administrative team, they spend a lot of time, making sure that we schedule conferences with our families. And a huge part of, getting communication with our Spanish-speaking families, giving that a priority, has been the support from our family liaison staff. Mr. Alberto Flores, he has been instrumental. I know he's assigned to Foster 2 days a week, but there's other days if something major and urgent comes up, we don't like to use Propio to communicate that to families. So I text him, he runs up from CD, he texts me back. He has been very instrumental in supporting us with the communication piece. Challenges, as the scholars have mentioned, is that the instruction in English, with translation made available, there's still a huge cognitive lift for them. And so we'd like to extend our heritage course offerings to other core content areas as well, specifically Algebra 1.
Yeah, no, great. No, does that means the instruction would be in a language that the students speak?
Yes.
Great. I'm a full proponent of that. I support.
So I'm curious, you sent me this graph of, I was asking about the effectiveness of co-teaching, of the co-teaching model. And if I'm reading this graph correctly, there's full year growth versus half year growth for class of 2038. So on the x-axis, it's 0, 20, 40, 60, 80. What is that? What are those numbers? Is that the percent of full year growth?
Which page are you on? I think.
This is in the questions that I.
Oh, I'm sorry, questions. That's okay.
Question number 14.
Let me look at it.
Let me pull up the.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious about if you look at the MLL, and it looks like for the MLL group, it's actually worse, which is kind of the opposite of what I would expect, given that there's an MLL co-teacher there.
Yeah.
Well, he started in January.
Yes, we won't really see.
Oh, okay,
results of that
okay.
He started in January.
here.
Oh, started in January.
Correct.
Okay. That's what
And I'll just share, having looked at, so they have an authentic about posture, because they're starting that co-teaching and heritage expansion, but I spent, one of my mid-year reviews at Showalter, and we looked at the data for all of the math classes, and the heritage math class blew. I mean, it was pretty large growth, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of the mathematics there, and there's probably other factors as well. I mean, there might be other factors like a newer teacher and things like that, but just when you look at hard data, because there's, we have to look at everything else, but it was pretty significant. And so I think that is something we have to keep exploring, because that's the purpose, right, is to make sure that our students can show what they know without language being a barrier, right, as much as we can. So, and as long as we keep doing that and still teach them English and still do all the things we need to do, but being able to show what you know, is gonna be also lead to that piece what we learned at the last meeting we had, is having that confidence to really advocate for yourself, to share, to be confident in your skills and understanding, and not, and kind of own what you can do, right? So all of that is good stuff.
Yeah, there's no question that this co-teaching, that both works, and barring these kind of new teacher situation, I understand that part, but this is one I'm leaning on fairly heavily in my advocacy, that why we need more money, because we need to expand those programs a lot, because they're super effective, so.
They are. Thank you.
And I was kind of curious about, so the math, my understanding it was that we were doing co-teaching in math last year. It sounds like there's some other issues going on with math, that a teacher's transitioning, and so maybe that's complicating the whole issue this year.
It is, we hired a new math teacher this year,
Okay.
and I'm fully expecting, our math department and our math data to, improve
Okay.
next year.
Okay.
Next, yep, thank you. Attendance, and I'll address attendance first. We're not where we want to be yet, but it definitely has to increase from 63 to 70%, reflecting engagement and, support structures of students. Some of the challenges with attendance, that's disproportionate, still within our 11th and 12th graders. And we don't have the exact numbers in terms of what it is yet, even the breakdown for our 11th and 12th graders. And in terms of, I think a plan for our, in terms of attendance, is really, again, using our teams, and again, our student engagement. Mr. Hull is a big part of that, and especially in finding supports, and whether it be PSSC or all the other programs that's available to our students to increase that, but most importantly, connecting with students first and checking in, what the causes are for such absences, and some of it could be some tardies that are over the 15-minute mark, and just like, how do we get you in a little bit sooner than that? And so I'm really just connecting with our kids and addressing that and figuring out what it is that we can support with to address that. Participation, I want to go back to also in terms of attendance, as a strategy is, in staff meetings, we have, one of the things that we do is, making sure our teachers are writing letters, words of encouragement, and also, contacting families with 5 or more absences every meeting, so that way you have a chance to really, and we've had some really, not that I'm eavesdropping in some of those letters, but some really cool letters that's going out to students from our teachers, and really encouraging, just positive words. So,
Such a a really small thing, but can say a lot to a student about their value of when they're absent, they're missed, right?
Exactly.
So that's great.
Our goal for the end of the year is to make sure every scholar in the school receives, a positive message.
Wonderful. Really quick question, just around the grade level disparity, so that 11th and 12th grade makes sense. What's one issue with the 9th and 10th graders? I'm sure they're very different, but what is something that you've noticed?
in terms of attendance, and I think it could be really good, just a handful of students and really connecting, again, figuring out what it is that the root cause are in each individual student. Maybe there's some partners that are always together in those ways that this class and it could be, again, extended times, just out of instruction time that, and it's not the whole period, it's not the whole day, but we can figure out what it is. And again, this is anecdotal data and some of the stuff that I'm able to connect with in the hallways is, what are you not grasping in math, ELA? And is it avoidance? And what is it that we can support with that? And really those conversations, that is, again, this is my own husband. So it's like 5th month and like really seeking those students out, like, okay, as I'm getting to know you, these are things I know about you, and then really connecting with our counselors, our engagement officers, like, okay. And then really getting that child in it, and as you said earlier, like really have them advocate. This is what I need in order to be successful in the classroom, and really getting them to the point where they're naming that for themselves. And again, my message is always, I can't do the work for you. I can gather everyone around you, but there's some effort that needs to come from you. And the first part of that is you naming what can I do for you?
Do you have any idea what percentage of students have jobs?
You know, I don't have the numbers.
That's nothing precise, but just wild, 30%, 50%?
It might be lower than that, actually. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't have that. Good question.
Out of curiosity, do our students have any idea? Well, not sure, I just don't know what we used to know what our church was doing, so.
I mean,
jobs.
I'd say like 15%, 20%. Somewhere around.
I was gonna say.
I will say I've run into the Latin Town Center.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes up a lot anecdotally, talk to Sue, oh, yeah, I'm working.
And so again, I'm really making sure that we're connecting with our kids and connecting them with, getting an adult in the building that they feel supports them and move towards, systems of support for them. Next slide, please. Participation, I think the next slide. So in terms of, again, one of the things that, like as you saw with our choir, or robotics, an increase in participation, still trying to, with our drama clubs. But in terms of athletics, an increase, and I will say with the numbers, there's some doubles in that, right? We don't have 533 individual students, but there are multiple kids, a student might participate in multiple sports. And so, yep. And so, but the idea is still, there's an increase in the types of activities, but I think there's some also, so I'm working with Gabe to get the actual raw numbers of how many individual students have increased. And again, and I want to get a running record of all the different programs also. And I think Mr. Shamey mentioned like the robotics league of 22 versus from 14 previous year. And so again, just working. Again, so how can we advertise our programs and really making sure that students know that they can contribute to all these different clubs and programs that we offer.
Quick question, in COVID, our clubs really, they did what they could do, they probably disbanded in a lot of ways. So are we giving them incentives to be involved in extracurricular activities? Do they get beyond their own self, joy, I hope, and growth and other things? Are they getting incentives that, I don't know if they're academic incentives or anything else, because we used to, when I was an athlete, they used to really make a big deal out of the best GPAs. And they made a big deal out of people who were like inspiring and captains and leaders.
I would say that, I think that that's a part of what we wanted to display today. We've really tried to promote our scholars participating and highlights, what they're doing, because not everyone sees, the robotics or is able to see the choir due to, work and things like that. But we always try to find different ways to celebrate our scholars and their accomplishments.
This is not necessarily data that I need by any means, but it just kind of makes me curious, like, 'cause I'm sure y'all have this somewhere. How many scholars are in some sort of extracurricular activity and who's not? And then if we've done some data collection to say, well, why not, right? Is it because Aiden, there's not an actual activity that, and I know you are one, right? But there's not an actual activity that speaks to you? Or is it because you don't know how to even tap in, right? You don't know how to get connected, you don't know where your entry points are? So it would just be something really interesting to.
Well, and just where the data falls out on who's the more successful scholar.
Yeah. And again, that's the idea is increasing and having students attached to a foster in some way, in some capacity. And we know that students that are involved in or attached to a program are more successful in school. And again, I think overall increasing the sense of belonging to the building, I think it just adds, and again, you see that in the two clubs over here in terms of camaraderie and just the school spirit. And so, and I would say.
One of the, something back on the work commitment, so the thing that comes to my mind is, if we could focus on maybe internships and works credits and find, I don't know how hard it is to get internships is actually pay money, would be really, I mean, that's the ideal. And if you start, and I don't know, you start working with some of our businesses around here to kind of get that in their mind that, you know, you can get some great employees if you maybe an internship and pay them, and then we could give them credit. There's a virtuous cycle there, I think.
I will just add, no, you're correct. I will just add that Urban League in our building, they have every 6 weeks, they have a different program where our scholars receive a stipend. So a lot of our scholars participate in many of those programs.
Yeah, that's great, because I mean, the reason they're working is it's, you know, the obvious reason.
Right.
Family needs some money, and so if we give them some good ways to do that and then attach them to the school as well, then we, a win-win.
Yep. And again, the idea of like, if we continue to create, you know, system supports and adapt them to our students and then target specific needs, whether it be by grade or demographic group, and get closer to our desired outcomes for all our kids. So.
Yeah. We just, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so, for our fall conferences, staff did, they did a Google survey and they made, the majority of them, you know, wanted a key arena style conference. So departments are sitting in their team, staff are sitting by their departments in the commons area. And, families don't have a set time. If a family is able to walk in at 5 p.m., they still have a good 1 hour to go around and get information from the teachers. That's been very successful. We tried it last year and it's been very successful, and families like the key arena style conferences. And so we will replicate it again this year. But just, you know, and previously, prior to these 2 years, they had a bell schedule type of schedule, family conference, and neither the staff or families liked that, because some of them, you know, they were pressed for time, and then families would get congested in a classroom. And so the bell would ring and it's like you have to go to the next classroom. So the key arena style conferencing has been very successful at Foster.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was involved and I completely agree with you.
Yeah, thank you. And so one of the key pieces of data that was provided to us by the math department was that 19% of our 9th grade Algebra 1 scholars who were failing prior to the conferences brought their grade up to passing after the conference. This piece of data was given to us by the math department. Yeah, so that's excellent feedback for us. Yeah.
So we're pretty much in the end. We talked about some of the needs or desires for us as a school community. One being, again, just a policy that the board implements around no cell phones. We will continue our work with connecting with community partnerships and resources for our Hispanic Latino scholars, as well as all of the things that we discussed today are going to help drive our work with the Portrait of a Graduate, which we're going to continue to give updates on regarding that. And then one of the things that we're moving towards next year, I know some of the schools here are doing it this year with their instructional rounds, but continuing that work within Foster and in the district so that, you know, we're in alignment as far as our instructional strategies, practices, and equitable grading alignment as well.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to say generally, I think there's so many beautiful things that got displayed throughout this entire presentation. And one common theme that I think I saw throughout is this idea of connection, right? You know, I think that is the foundational piece where belonging can then happen. So it's beautiful again to see that woven throughout. And then also just the immense growth in significant times of challenge. And that is leadership, y'all. So I just want to commend you on your leadership. Yes, agreed. It is also, it's all three of you collectively, right? And so I just want to commend you and say thank you for that. I know particularly, you know, as we, the board and the team here was grappling with the reduction in staff last year, and we were thinking hard about what that was going to mean, particularly for our graduation rates and our FAFSA completions and our college readiness. And what this is showing me is that your team has stepped in and stepped up, and we're not seeing the gaps that we imagined could be there. And that's just one example, but I mean, now you're on track. The conference, I know that was, last year was the first year, and we were so excited about that, to see the growth that has happened in just that year, the participation that you're, so just so many amazing elements of growth there. And again, particularly in times that have just been, it's been a really hard year and a half. So just thank you for everything that y'all do.
Can I just ask one question? How steps and support needed, but, you know, what keeps you up at night? What's the piece that we should be? Oh, my goodness, but you got to have time. I know it's like eating the elephant, so just give me the first bite.
That's hard.
You know, that's a really low, that's a very low question. I will tell you, I think about what brings me to work every day. And all of the things that we just shared, as well as our scholars coming in, that's my why.
Yeah.
With showing up to work every day. And you, thank you, Director Hoover. My team is amazing. And I was done playing my Kendrick Lamar theme music. Save that for the next meeting.
Well, I just want to also let this, I'm gonna do this for public record, is that just to share that Principal Parker was honored last Friday. Me from the Black Student Union at Foster High School, and I think that is just a tribute to you modeling Black excellence for your students. So it's been great, actually, to be honest. Like, so I hate it when I get a little teary eyed sometimes. I tell my head constantly, just stop it, Constantly. But I did a couple of times. One, because just the amazing, I know the work that you have done. It's not easy to walk into a role brand new. You had some history there, but you had some things you wanted to do, right? And really work with your team to build a school improvement plan, to work through the strategic, like all of the pieces. And even just from last year's presentation, just the shifts you've made. So we've seen evidence of that over and over again, not just in paper, but even in other things. And you're just continuing to work on improvement, growth, which is all I ask, right? Is that everyone does in Tukwila School District. That's it. And you not only model it, but you exemplify it. And so just saying that is really important, because nothing's perfect. There's just no perfection. There's just, you know, will, persistence, and mindset, right? And so, and your team, and you show that all the time. So it's evident by the students, their pride. I love Harmony. Sorry, Harmony. I got emotional. No, it was great to see all, and what I saw was pride, like pride when I go to the, you know, pride everywhere, there's pride, so, yeah, it was really great, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just say, quickly, Foster High School actually has a long history of academic excellence as I look back to the data and seen things over the years. And I can say that, the new version of Foster is in really good hands, and so we'll just continue on.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You already know how I feel about it.
Just want to check in real quick about time. Our next meeting is actually scheduled for 5:15 start, right? Okay, so I want to make sure that we're wrapping up this with at least like 5 minutes of constructive break. So knowing that, we can kind of maybe let's get through the strategic plan presentation and ask questions at the end. There, really brief, I think like two things that I was curious about, but it wasn't necessarily just related to the foster team, but two things, and then you can address it in your presentation, so fine. The first is, oh my gosh, what did you just left me, so I'll start with the first one. We know that students are missing school, staying home from school due to status, right? And thinking about the ways that we learn as a system how to educate virtually. What options do we have? What can we employ to ensure that those students are still getting the education that they deserve and are legally obligated to receive in this state, and that they're not being marked absent on a regular basis for something that is so far out of their control? So just something that I would really ask that this team think about, ways that we can pivot to support those students right now. Again, we have the virtual infrastructure to do it. It might just be a little harder, but it's worth it. And the second thing I was thinking is noticing that in high school, particularly around that science conversation, it made me think back to a few months ago when I first heard and realized that we don't have a science curriculum in elementary schools. And there's gotta be a connection to that, right? Like, if there's not a curriculum that is consistent in our elementary schools, then by the time they get to high school, there are foundational scientific pieces that are missing. So that to me feels like a big gap that we shouldn't expect the high school to fix. Anyway, those are just two thoughts I had that I wanted to get out, but it wasn't just about their team.
Great.
Thank you. Hey, so this report is, we know that last month was a report on goals 1 and 4. This one was capping the highlights and measurables for goals 2 and 3, engaging learners and relationships. So the contents, I cite 3. The contents are to look at the metrics for the 2 focus strategic plan goals, and then provide a SWOT analysis, including next steps. And then what we've learned throughout the presentation and the slide deck, all the satellite data, which are the test scores and the surveys, and street data, I've included information directly that the principals have intentionally gone and asked students of diverse group of students, it's every type of diversity, to try to get a broad representation of input, and I added some trend data from that. So slide 4 shows just our general notes. So a couple of the goals from last year are directly applicable to now because they were measurable for that year. So they don't appear on here. Yeah, we talked about the street data. So, okay, slide 6, that shows our strategic plan goal. And slide 7, and based on board input from the previous meeting, we're presenting the data now in table format. Hopefully this is more digestible and easy to follow. So first one, slide 7, is being safe and supported, and disproportionality and discipline. So on the right column shows the data that was used. Our data analysts pulled this together. On the board questions, I saw that was showing more direct analysis, and that's why I've written on the board questions that is correct. According to the metrics on board questions, that data presented there is correct. So that would just adjust what our next year's goals are based on slight difference in calculation on the board question sheet versus the calculations that are on here. It still shows a small, almost statistically not significant gap for Latino Hispanic kids. Doesn't mean we won't address it, we still will, but it's narrowing. Still a broader gap for our students who are Black or African American, so that still would require some of folks' attention to reduce that. And I think the high school leaders present the different ways that they're approaching that.
I think this is where, it gets tricky when you say discipline. If we're using the state data, that's out, they define discipline as out of school, suspension, which is quite different from the broader definition that we've been talking about here. So that out of school suspension should be dribbling down to close to zero. I mean, there are some safety considerations, there are some how to do that, but it should be really relatively rare going forward. So.
Yeah, I think especially with our students, and there's so many we can figure out to track students, we would hope that the longer they're in our system, the more successful they are, the fewer incidences of exclusionary discipline, because we have a system that welcomes in and feels safe, and the system's set up for their safety and inclusion. So I agree that that's specifically, we should definitely see improvements.
Yeah, frequently the out of school is frequently related to the mobility issues, some of the students coming from somewhere else and, you know, gets in a big fight or something, and so, anyway. But,
It should, but in the past, it hasn't been. So that's the reason why it has to be a target, and that's why that whole combination of doing the school-based WIS data is to catch it before it gets to this. So it's a twofold approach. But in the past data, we've had a lot of out-of-school suspensions.
Yes.
That probably should not have been, and so this is a good trend, so thank you, because that's one way to measure our overall progress, one measurement of our overall progress, because if we see less here, because also out of school suspensions, or even if you send a student out for half a day or an hour to sit out of a classroom, that is absence from core instruction. No matter how we look at it, slice it, dice it, it's an absence from core instruction. So that also would actually affect our truancy, our attendance rates, all of those things as well. So this is a better trend that we're leaning towards, and I'm glad all of our school leaders have taken this on as a data point for them. So at least it's showing that the work that they're doing. And I'll remind everybody, like when we think about finances, Belong Partner, we really significantly reduced it. So it is really targeted, their work is more targeted with the schools, more focused. But I will also say, it's up to the teachers now to really implement the changes, right? And so that's good news to say that the district has taken this on as a goal, and we're seeing at least one little trend, one way going the other direction mostly, not in all areas, but so that's good.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Joseph, for reminding me that we have been focused through last spring and continuing this year. Calibrating, I think this also, you remember from a previous board report, calibrating what warrants exclusionary discipline.
Yeah.
So that, and what, like, something, yes. So, and also not just bumping, like a student might be referred for inappropriate behavior, don't bump it to defiance, is it the same thing? So we've been looking at defining them, what is different between that and that, so it's not just pushing it over.
And the other part is drilling down into the classroom, because if there are certain classrooms that are getting all the expulsions, then we need to examine what's going on.
Yes, exactly. On slide 8, this is about students feeling safe and supported. Percent of students responding on the AES survey about specifically collaboration and interpersonal skills. The goal is to increase by 13% positive ratings. We had a 5% increase, so that's, worth note. It wasn't our 13% goal though. So it was still an improvement.
So this category is being exhibited to the extreme by our robotics team. And their choir as well.
Yes. The next slide 9 is attendance, students attending classes regularly. And one of the areas that I've overseen this year is also truancy. We, as you talked about, we are district-wide making a real concerted effort to address all attendance issues as a restorative manner, like we would with a discipline issue, rather than saying you've got spend days to go to court. Because we are really worried about that becoming, even unintentionally, the school to prison pipeline.
Yep.
And so we are really adamant that we're not going to do that. So we've talked about and just provided some more written communication in the all school district bulletins last week. Specific steps of truancy and what steps we need school people to do first. That's where the relationships are with the kids and parents more than me. Parents don't know me. If they see someone downtown, refer them to court, that automatically becomes adversarial. So.
Has there been a decrease in truancy since y'all been doing, or like having
Yes.
truancy hearings? Okay.
There's only been maybe 4 so far who've met the criterion, and it's the criterion is, I get this for our connection at King County Juvenile Courts. It's about unexcused absences specific. You're allowed to refer for excused, the numbers are high, but it's really unexcused. So that would be, I think it's 7 in any month. Or 15, and if you hit 15 any point of the year, whenever that is, that's time where you have to, already you would have been doing some positive interventions at the school site, but by that time, that's when principals will call me and say, here's what we've tried, is it time to do a referral? But we have a number of kids who are over that many, but they haven't been unexcused.
The other next question too is like that designation of excuse. Unexcused, who determines that? Is that a state designation? Do we get to say whether it's excused or unexcused? Parents? Okay, so like, for instance, thinking about families with mixed status, right, as I was talking about. Could a parent then say, yep, these are all excused absences, and then that would be okay? Still don't, that's still separated from instruction, and I mean, right, so it still stands, I want to figure out how we can support that, but that's good to know. So there is some.
The parents just have to notify the district in some sort of written or verbal manner,
Yeah.
and it has to get recorded through, but as long as they do that, and, you know, and this is where it's a tricky part, you know, in the past, there was some, I wouldn't say here, but in my experiences, there's been some questions of who decides, right? Because people get frustrated, but student parents always excuse their kids no matter what, but I would say, we are trying to err on the side of, making sure, our focus is making sure kids feel welcome when they come back, no matter what it is, and maybe it's just educating some of our families that they can excuse their absences too, so that has to be part of them. But some parents don't know,
Right.
or they don't think that they can do it.
Right, and they're from different systems, different place, countries, it would be different set of rules that apply to this, so. It's part of just the school and working with parents too to say, what counts as excused in our system? Quite a few things do count, and it is an honor system, but it wouldn't work for parents, say, I just didn't feel like I couldn't get them, that's not excused, but if they give us something that's any other reasonable, reasons, then it counts.
Do you hear any students, having issues with their parents? Either in 1 or 2 cases, one, the parents just don't feel confident in writing to the school or whatever the proper channel is. Or 2, the parent is just really hard on their kid, or, yeah, let's leave it that way.
Yeah, they do, and those are things that the schools and counselors and social workers will work specifically with each family. If they're noticing through their attendance tracking that a certain student is getting close to those thresholds, and even if they're not excused, but they're too much, we're worried because they're out to too much of missing instruction. That is when we think the school, that's the right time for someone in the school to connect with the family and just discuss it in a very positive, supportive manner. So not trying to say, hey, what can we do? Some people might say, oh, I didn't know that was the rule.
Right.
You know, until I started working in this position, having to be over it, I didn't know the exact cutoff either. So I can't be surprised that a lot of families just don't know that. So it's education and support.
But I think, thanks for letting us kind of go down that rabbit hole for a second. I think all of that speaks to that even if, you know, these numbers of attendance are, you know, still showing that they didn't quite meeting that goal, we are seeing successes in other areas connected to attendance.
Right.
Which I think is really important.
And yeah, I think it's foundational. I think we would be, over time, we'll see the trend going in a positive direction. And slide 10, I suppose we did address this already. And so you'll see the same numbers in our data cell column. And this is good data on both of them. 11th graders, our goal is 95%. At some point in the year already, this point of the year, they've already exceeded that goal. 12th graders, almost 91%, but they have to have it to meet our strategic plan goal by end of year, 100%. So our administrators in high school feel like they're definitely an attractor because there's certain, indicators and tasks they have to do for each grade to meet that requirement at that grade. So it's a little, you can meet it in 11th grade, but you might not yet in 12th grade because there's more things you have to do. So that's why it might take till the end of the year to actually see what our numbers are.
And then just to let the board know and also community know, so we're going through a transition year next year. We are one of the cohorts that's been accepted into OSPI school units. Where the OSPI is paying for districts, we're gonna have one state system for high school and beyond plan. And so we're, I think in one of the first cohorts, is there?
Yes, we're in cohort one, and Director of Technology Sean Yu, and myself are both, managing both sides. He's doing the IT side of preparation and doing the instructional side of preparation, and we will support our schools in moving over to new platform compliance, so.
And so that might affect the data a little bit in the fall as we get there. We hopefully, and this, just to let you, and just reminder too, that in 12th grade is state law that we have 100% compliance. So this will be a cost savings for us in the long term because the state's paying for this. In the past, we've been paying for Zillow, and there's been some mixed results on who's using it, but I will share that 8th grade really targets, right, like what I'm saying, it's mixed because some of you guys don't aren't doing it. So I said that, I just said it in a nice way. But I think we've had mixed results, right? It's been mixed, and so we're trying to figure out, what that transition looks like. Cause we have some on paper, some here, some there, anyway. So we're trying to figure out what that transition looks like. What does it mean to pull from Zillow? I mean, there's just a lot of things. So there's just a lot of moving parts here. So there might be a little shift in this for next year, but the goal is still 100% for 12th graders at the end of the year. So just sharing that. And the reason why we actually have an 11th grade goal here, and I'll be intentional what my reason is because we should be really focusing on with 12th graders around supporting them on their success trajectory, like where they want to go next, what if they want to work, if they want to have, what their plan, real executing the plan.
Right.
11th grade should have most of it filled out, and also sometimes we get a lot of new students between 11th and 12th grade too. So really, our counselors should be focusing on the actually like supporting students into the next level and also getting students up to speed that need to be that focus. So that's why we do have an 11th grade goal, because we want to make sure that really is our target, to get as many as we can, so that we can then actually support students really and building those relationships and really getting to know them so we can help really support them the next few years.
The other thing that I'd love to get to on this is have the state to kind of drive courses and programs that are offered. Because there seem to be sometimes a little mismatch between what the students.
Well, we're hoping that this will give us data, right?
Exactly.
So if we can invest in our students' interests, then we can,
I think I don't have the specific analysis, but I would be willing to bet a number of students within the gap who don't yet have the plan done. It's because they've arrived here fairly recently, and you would have had a chance to finish all the tasks to be considered done.
Well, and to honor also what Aiden's saying is there are also interests, right? Like, are not seeing the value in it. I think there's some of that too.
Absolutely.
Could I have a little anecdote about Zillow? The last time I had an advisory teacher tell me about Zillow was probably first semester of my freshman year.
Okay. That's information. Yeah, it's spilling the tea.
That's why.
We have to. That's important information, right? And so that makes me wonder, that's encouraging for you. Yeah. So what do teachers need, right, to see this? And I think, what do teachers need? And then if maybe teachers aren't comfortable, right, using this tool as well. So that's what I'm curious about. If that's not happening, why? And then how do we support them in getting it to happen? Like I wonder about the self-conscious feeling. If it's not happening consistently, why? And if you guys practically just launched it this year, it was just supposed to pilot in social studies. So maybe it's just about thinking that we just gotta learn why, what's going on.
And one big thank you, Dr. Pedrosa, for bringing this up is we're working with school leaders to say also, we have to have some way to ensure the data that they're tracking in their own system or the Zillow makes it onto the new platform. We don't want a huge gap of where did the other data go, wall there. So we communicate to them that they need to decide in their school, are they gonna go ahead and use Zillow until August, whenever we start the new system? Or if not, are they prepared to hand enter their data? Because Zello will upload automatically through school links. So at some of these schools, we're trying to decide what's the best way to go. Okay, so slide 13, belonging and identity. This is looking at the EES student survey. We're still using specifically belonging and identity. We show the goal for end of year, but the survey takes place right at the end of the school year. So we'll be able to provide data on that after that time. Slide 14.
Can I just make
Oh,
a
yeah.
super quick comment on
Sure.
that? Is that okay? Can you say whatever you want? What does that stop you? Balance. Sometimes I take feedback.
I know.
Dr. and I had a little bit of conversation about the EES survey overall, right? I think some of I have a lot of feelings about it, but that's besides the point. That's what the company and Brentwood thinks. But David, just thinking about the time with which the survey is collected, right? It's at the end of other assessment periods, it's at the end of the school year. It's giving you a snapshot when you had 10 months, really, that you want to know if this is true. And so two things that I'm really thinking about and hopefully gonna be working with Dr. Rosa on and the rest of the team of like, what's a new survey, right? Not to do in addition to the CE survey, but instead of the CE survey that's more limited, that's gonna give us more concrete information about what we need. And then I think as a part of that, and I'm saying this out loud, so I don't think I said it to you before, as a part of that, I wanna have more frequent checkpoints, right? So, at work, we could do these things called pulse checks, right? So, for a week, you have a little box that says yes or no. And then the question is, do you have an adult that you feel like supports you at the club? Yes, no, right? So you're getting real-time data from you in a particular time frame. Then you take that information, you're like, okay, great, no, we've got 50% that say yes, 50% that say no, great, we've got some work to do, right? In 2 months from now, you ask the same question in the same way, right? Do you have a supportive adult at school? Yes, no, a box, they fill it out, it's anonymous, it goes right in there, right? So again, little ways to get concrete information and data, but in more of a snapshot version, right? Because again, this data is gonna be limited based on how that young person feels on any given day. They may have had a terrible day, they're feeling super excluded at school, they're stressed, and their teacher just had to like hold them accountable for something they didn't turn in, right? That's gonna color how I answer this question. So not only do we need a new survey, but we also need to figure out ways that we are actually surveying questions around belongingness and identity on a more regular basis, because this is not enough. But just had to get out there.
We have been talking with what can be replaced, and instead more regular, but much narrower.
Yep.
And not so, because right now it's long.
But it doesn't feel like another assessment, right?
Yeah.
It could just be a question.
And time, it's
Did you
way
ask?
in the year, kids are tired,
Yeah.
they're, it probably will skew more negatively, so we're thinking where the time would be, if it's multiple, or how do we do that?
With the
So-
little, you do a sticker chart. Yes, no, put a star on the one that feels right, right? There's age appropriate ways to ask the same questions, get the same data.
Right.
And I'm super excited to help figure out that.
Well, thank you. We'll cover that sounds good. Okay, so slide 14, great news here. For students who have been involved with the teacher about setting personal growth goals, we used already diagnostic, the fall data. Speaking with each principal, they said 100% of teachers have, after the first diagnostic in like October, they have each one met with every student to talk about, here's your score, what's that mean? What would it take to get up, a grade level in their own age appropriate context? And some of the student data I'll get to in a second responds directly to how, what students and teachers and parents feel about it. So all 4 of our schools who take iReady did make 100% go. Slide 15 is establishing baseline participating in conferences. We know that conferences do occur through the year, so this will be something at the end of the year we can look back and see who else participated in conferences during the year. A lot of them do occur at the beginning, but as a high school team describes, sometimes it's the arena style. The schools find different ways to conference with parents, like the report card time or other ways at parent events. So we want to include all those ways because for different parents, different engagement, modes is comfortable for them. So our SWOT analysis, starting on 17, some strengths, our third specific strategic plan does give us some coherence for all of us to focus everything back on the strat plan. And so part of the next steps is just continuing to be, communicate the elements of the strat plan, so it becomes just second nature for everybody in the system. Weakness is we did have some goals that were met, but a lot of goals we did not, that some declined. So the next step then is just to make that data visible and transparent to people. So they say, look, the kids, where's your growth goal already? We were looking at what is our growth goal? So share what the data is saying, and then they could, each school can really work part of their SIP, their school improvement plan, or in other ways, with the school leadership team, talk about how they're going to address where their areas of most need or attention.
Question for you there on weaknesses. I've talked to people who recently retired, and maybe a couple that actually are still here. And to the person, and you probably do the same thing in my workplace, they feel overwhelmed with too many programs, too many evaluations, too many touch points. Is any of this stuff contributing to the confluence of some sort where they all at work we complain that we write several times reports, multiple places, we know the right ones and haven't published them any? Similarly here, is there focus in the future? First of all, do you agree or even empathize with the fact that they feel like they've got too many things, right? I mean, we talk about at these meetings, too much data, too much stuff, right? News.
Exactly the same thing.
What is there effort to streamline that better so that the weaknesses improve?
Yes, one of the main ways is through my work and also our state assigned school improvement coach Hannah, working with principals and site teams on the school improvement plan. That done thoughtfully as everyone's working their best to do, that should incorporate a lot of other plans, like for example, whatever survey data we have, that would be part of the goals. So trying to tie everything we can into the SIP plan, and also one task I can do to kind of help make schools' lives a little easier is taking their strategic plan or their school improvement plans, which when they K schools because they're in school improvement program, they must use the state template. High school is not required, but they use because it's a consistency of colleagues to talk with, but it's lengthy. So I'm just gonna do one or two, however narrow I can make it, like a cheat sheet. So they can share, we talked about this before, I haven't quite got them done yet, but something like share with the schools, and they can use that as a guide, saves a lot of time digging through the whole document and say, okay, well, we didn't quite do that one, here's just the main goal, the point. And then they can say, okay, that we have new data, well, let's adjust this goal, let's focus interventions on that.
I'll say that I think, yes, everyone's feeling overwhelmed, right? We just had a meeting today to talk about just us, I'll just say us, policy updates and reviews. And we have so many that we have to do, so many policies that have been suspended, reverted back in 2020. Like, there's just so many things we have to do, right? And so we're needing to do that work to be in compliance and, all the things. And so we were just talking about how to streamline and how to make it simpler, how to do all of that, because we don't have time to reinvent the wheel on everything, right? And the other thing I would say is that's why we're trying to make sure the strategic plan is the focal point of our work. And we still have some residual things left that don't fit within that. And so what we need to do, and that's why the big conversation here that you guys started last 2 weeks ago about what reports are necessary and what are not. It says we're doing the same thing, right? One of the things that's, I'll be honest, one thing that's not helpful with the budget reduction, but is we took out a lot of stuff, right? That is not, we take out some stuff. We have to prioritize, what's needed and what's not needed. And I think, I just want to make sure that we're being thoughtful, like thinking even about a curriculum adoption right now, elementary. We just did a math one this year. So it takes a couple years to get that under belt and get it going. And we also need an ELA, we need a literacy one for elementary too, those kinds of things. And so in a way, we have to think about what's the most important thing, and timing is everything. So in one way, not having money right now might be a blessing that we can't purchase, like they are all under strict orders to tell people, because we get sales calls all the time.
Oh, yeah.
What do you say, Deb? What's the answer to everybody?
Hi, which we can help you, we are inviting conditions for the.
That is literally our.
That's great.
And everyone here knows that too. I want to actually put it on my social media. We have more money. So just letting you know that actually, it's also, while it's stressful, it's also an opportunity for us. Just like the boards redefining their priorities in the budget, we have to define our priorities in the budget too. And we also have to acknowledge that kids are coming to us with more needs. Parents have more needs. And so we're trying to figure out how to do the best job we can with minimal budget less, but also then that means some things have to fall off and we have to just say, you know, we had to stop some key partnerships last year that we did not want to do. Just things like that. And so I think, it's tough and it's an opportunity. So it's gonna force us to get a little bit more finite in what we're supposed to be doing and not doing. And so I agree with, like, one of the things, like, my first thing I said, the CE, I'm just gonna agree with right here. So many questions, why? Like, it's so many questions, that just on that alone, I'm not even talking about the quality of the questions.
Yeah.
Or anything, like, I don't have time to fill out 125, I don't have time to fill out a 30-point survey, much less a 125-point survey. So just saying that there's are things that we could do to take things off of the teacher's plates. They don't have time to do that, right? And so those are things that we could do, and we need to be thinking about that all the time, and we need to lean into these conversations. There are things that we have to say to ourselves, is this really necessary, right? I think we just need to get better at it.
Exactly. I was back at working for Washington State. Luckily, it was Supreme Court at the time when we had deep cuts in 2008, and we were doing furloughs and everything. It was horrible. So when we go through what we go through here, it's horrible for me to watch it happen again. But what I recall was the governor and the person that the governor sent to it flat said at some point you just have to face it, but you can't give the same services if the money's not there. So like, don't die 1,000 deaths not meeting all those goals. So the question is not only knowing what to pare down to, but also knowing what priority you put stuff back in the minute you have to.
Yes, the old saying of what, if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority.
Exactly.
I
used to, I once had a boss that said, what if I don't choose?
Yeah.
You're good.
And
I'll choose.
well, we were just on a webinar I was on this webinar today where the state superintendent told us that not a lot of, they don't anticipate big changes in some of the big title funding, but any discretionary grants might be minimized, eliminated, like, these are all the things we're thinking about. And so little things like that we've been counting on before, like we start doing language, some of these things are gonna go away. And so it means we have to figure out if this is our priority, then we have to fund it. And if we fund it, what don't we fund? And so those are the big questions we have to ask. And what they've also told us on the webinar today is there's no backfill. The legislator's gonna say, oh, the federal government's not funding this, we have all this money to give you. They're not gonna do that. So that means we have to make harder decisions. It means we have to have tougher decisions, and it means that we have to think about what is the most important thing, which is why the budget advisory doing a prioritization about what's important is kind of there's gonna be conversations around that, because we're not talking about if there are cuts, we're saying when and how much, right? And that's where we're at.
Yeah. And just thinking back, Director, for one question you asked about elementary science curriculum. Well, all that we have right now, elementary, is Mystery Science, this online program. There is, I think, maybe it was created, I think, before Next Generation Science Standards came out. So there's maybe some alignment, but it isn't really designed to be in alignment. So it's at least it's something, but it's when we can implement, that is something we prioritize to putting and program two on that. And so as Dr. Pedrosa said to you, that plus ELA, there's some possibilities of some ELA materials that are strictly supplemental and that are specific to medieval awareness and phonics that a lot of like our Units of Study program isn't really addressed. Actually, it's not all. So rather than teachers spending time to invent and find new things, we might be able to supplement much more cheaply, but something until we have time for full adoptions.
So Scott, we have a few minutes, so I'm gonna ask you to go through, or maybe you could just find questions and
Sure.
for the sort of the thing. Just to make sure that I just want to make sure that they have time, and Amy, we might have to move Amy's portion up to another time. Yeah.
Any other questions from our board?
Not really, good presentation.
Thank you.
All right,
So
so,
mine was just a memo update, so, I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but it's just laying out what we've done and just the last 2 meetings and what the plan is.
if there are any follow-ups or questions, around this, then I'd like to follow up with Ms. Fleming at a. Okay, so, there were no public comments submitted prior to the meeting. We do want to honor if there is anyone joining online, if you'd like to offer public comments. I'll give you just a second, to raise that virtual hand or unmute, not unmute yourself, can't do that just yet. You can type your name into the chat, which is now available. Just gonna give you a quick 30 seconds to do that. So we have a little bit of a break between the next meeting. Okay, seeing none, and assuming that that is true, if I can get a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Sorry.
All in favor? Aye, all right, we are adjourned, 1 minute break. And we'll be back. Thank you all for being here on the, sake of our right into executive session.
That's